To handle the events, I must require three components. What are the three components? That is event source and listener. When user clicks mouse button, the particular event must be triggered. If I have text area, then what is the listener? I want to register, that is add text listener. If I want to design any Windows application, then I'm going to use AWT. Hello to all, a warm welcome to my third unit, and the chapter name here is Event and GUI Programming. So what is GUI? That is nothing but the Graphical User Interface Programming. I am your Revati ma'am, faculty from the Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. So dear student, in this chapter, we are going to study how to handle GUI events. Along with that, I'm going to discuss event classes and interfaces. In that, I'm going to discuss what are the different kinds of event handlers we are going to have in Java, how to register methods. Along with that, I'm going to deal with Java Abstract Windows Toolkit. In that, I'm going to discuss some of the packages as well as AWT hierarchy. In that, I'm going to discuss what is container and what is components. Anyway, dear student, this is very interesting as well as important chapter. And you can expect short question under this chapter. So what is GUI? That is Graphical User Interface. So dear student, if I want to attract the customer, then I must have very beautiful graphical user interface. In the sense, I want to design the product very attractively. So dear student, if I consider any program that uses GUI, so it is nothing but the graphical user interface, such as Java application written for Windows is event driven, and event describes the change in state of any object. So dear student, think that I'm going to design Windows application form by using Java program. Now what I want to do, I want to design the application form in such a way that must be user friendly as well as attractive. So dear student, think that I want to design result form. Okay, so this is the form only for the student. Okay, this is the result form. Okay, fine. Now, see here. I want to give the fields like register number, then date of birth. Okay, then I'm going to provide the option submit and clear. Okay, see, this is the application form I want to design by using Java programming. So it is nothing but the graphical user interface. In the sense, I want to design user interface in such a way that must be easy to use, and it is user friendly and it is attractive. Okay, see here. I have the events. What kind of event here? It is nothing but the mouse event. So what is event? That's nothing but the user action. And what kind of user action? That is, when I click submit button, what's going to happen? Okay, see here. is event driven, in the sense in Java application is written in such a way that must be event driven. So what is event here? That's nothing but the user interaction or user action. When user clicks mouse button, the particular event must be triggered. To handle the event, I must have event handler. So here, event is nothing but it is a change in state of any object. See here, if I consider submit as one object, okay, then when I click submit, it's going to change its state. For example, pressing a button, entering a character in the text box, or clicking or dragging a mouse, etc. So these are the some kind of events. Now, to handle the events, I must require three components. What are the three components? That is event, event source and listener. What is event? Event is nothing but the user action. When it is triggered, then what's going to happen? It changes the state of an object. Then what is event source? Event source is an object that generates an event. Okay. So what is event source? Event source is also an object. Example, mouse, keyboard, okay, that generates an event. Then what about listener? A listener is an object that is listening to the events. So what is listener? It's an object. What's the job of the object? Is listen to the event. A listener gets notified when the event occurs. If any event triggered, then that must be informed to the listener or notified to the listener. So here, how events are handled. A source generates an event. See here, think that I have submit button. Okay, when I click this button, okay, what's going to happen? It triggers event, okay, that's sent to one or more event listener that is registered with the source. Okay, for this particular button, I'm going to have more than one event listener, okay, that must be registered. Once event is received by the listener, now once I click the mouse, okay, that action is received by the listener. They process the event and return. It's going to execute the action and it's going to return. So events are supported by number of Java packages like java.util, java.awt, java.awt.event. So what is util? That's nothing but utility package. Then what about AWT? That is nothing but abstract Windows toolkit. Now see here, I have some of the important event classes as well as interfaces. See here, I have event class, description and listener interface. So action event. So generated when the button is pressed. See here, when I'm going to press the button, then it's going to generate an action event. So who is the listener interface? That is nothing but the action listener. And mouse event. When the mouse is dragged or when the mouse is clicked or pressed, okay, or released. And what kind of event class? That is mouse event class. And who is the listener interface? That is none other than mouse listener. And key event. When I press any key or when input is received from the keyboard. Then what kind of event? That is key event. And what is the interface? That is key listener interface. Then item event generated when checkbox or list item is clicked. Think that, okay, for the gender, I have checkbox. Okay, when I click this checkbox, what's going to happen? This item event class is going to trigger, and what kind of interface? That is item listener interface. Now, the steps used to handle the events. So here, first what I have to do, I have to register the component with the listener. Suppose if I want to handle the events properly, so what I want to do, I must register the component with the listener. For the registering the component with the listener, many classes provide the registration method. For example, see here, I have button. Okay, for the button, I have add action listener. And for the menu item, I have add action listener. And for text field, once again, add action listener. See here, these are the sum of the events as well as components I just want to register to handle the events. Okay, so if I want to use button, what's the method or what is the listener I want to use here? Add action listener. If I'm going to have the menu item, what is the listener I want to register? That is add action listener. For the text field, add action listener or add text listener. Okay, fine. Now see here. If I have text area, then what is the listener I want to register? That is add text listener. If it is checkbox, then add item listener. And if it is choice, then once again add item listener. If it is list box, then add action listener. Once again, add action listener. These are the listeners I'm going to have under Java. Now, dear student, I'm going to have Java AWT. So, what is A, what is W, and what is T? A is nothing but the abstract. Then what about W? It is Windows. Then what about T? It is nothing but the toolkit. So, Java AWT is an application program interface. It is nothing but the application program interface, and it's mainly used to develop graphical user interface or Windows-based applications in Java. In the sense, if I want to design any Windows application, then I'm going to use AWT. So, dear student, I will consider the result form itself. Okay, see, if I consider result form, I have register number field, then date of birth field, submit button, and I have clear button. Suppose if I want to develop these kind of user application, then I'm going to use AWT. Okay, fine. So, Java AWT components are platform dependent. Why it is platform dependent? Because the view is mainly depends on the operating system. Okay, suppose if you are using Windows XP and someone using Linux operating system, the view of the graphical user interface may vary. So here Java AWT components are platform dependent in the sense components are displayed. So what are the components? That is nothing but the text box, label, button, radio button, checkbox, list, so and so. So all these are example for component, and components are displayed according to the view of operating system. So here AWT is heavyweight in the sense components are using the resources of underlying operating system. So dear student, in my application, whatever the component I'm going to use, that is purely depends on the operating system. Okay, for that reason, AWT components are called platform dependent as well as heavy weight. Now, if I want to design AWT components, or if I want to use AWT components, then what I want to do? I want to import Java AWT package that provides classes as well as APIs like text field, label, text area, radio button, checkbox, choice, list, etc. Now, there are three set of Java APIs for graphical programming. In that, first one is AWT, that is Abstract Windows or Windowing Toolkit, then Swings as well as Java FX. So what is AWT? It is also an API was introduced in JDK 1.0. So what is JDK? That is Java Development Kit. Most of the AWT GUI, that is user interface component, have become absolute and should be replaced by the Swing UI. Okay, so this is the first and initial product. Okay, nowadays we are going to have the Swing. Okay, so what we are going to do? We are going to replace AWT with the Swings. It's also a API, a much more comprehensive set of graphics libraries. It provides much more comprehensive set of graphics libraries that enhances AWT. Was introduced as part of Java Foundation class. That's nothing but JFC. And the third one is Java FX, was the integrated into JDK 8, was meant to replacing Swing. Initially, we had AWT, now that is replaced by the Swing. Now, this Swing is replaced by the Java FX. So, Java FX was moved out from the JDK in JDK 11, but it's still available as a separate module. So what are the three different set of APIs we can use here? AWT, that is Abstract Windows Toolkit, Swings, and Java FX. Now, AWT package. So here it is huge in the sense it consists of 12 packages. So AWT package includes 12 packages out of 370 classes. Provides 12 packages and 370 classes. Okay, even Swing is even bigger than AWT and it provides 18 packages. In that we have 737 classes, and where we can able to find Swing, that is in JDK 8. But fortunately, out of all these packages, we are going to use only 2 packages, that is Java AWT and Java AWT.events. So, the Java AWT is a package that contains the core abstract Windows toolkit graphics class, and here event is a package that supports event handling. Now dear students, see here the Java AWT. So here Java is nothing but the main package. Under this I'm going to have the sub package AWT that contains core AWT, that is abstract Windows toolkit graphics class. In that I'm going to have the GUI component and GUI container. So what is component here? If I have button, text field, label, then it is termed as GUI, that is graphical user interface component. And what about container? When I have frames and panel, then it is known as container. Then I'm going to have layout managers such as flow layout, border layout and grid layout. In the sense, to manage my application layout, I'm going to have the layout managers, that is flow layout, border layout and grid layout. Then I'm going to have custom graphics class such as graphics, color and font. In the sense, to design my form, I can have graphics, even I can have the colors, even I can have the font. And if I consider AWT event package, okay, it supports event classes like action event, mouse event, keyboard event as well as Windows event. Then what about the listener? It provides many event listener interfaces like action listener, mouse listener, keyboard listener, mouse motion listener, Windows listener, etc. Along with that, event listener adapters class. It provides event listener adapter class such as mouse adapter, keyboard adapter as well as Windows adapter. Now, let me to consider the hierarchy of Java abstract windowing toolkit. See here, if I consider event is nothing but the object, okay, then it includes component. And what are the component I can have? That is button, label, checkbox, choice, list. Along with that, I'm going to have the container. What kind of container I can have? That is Windows container and panel. Okay, fine. If I consider window, I have the Windows frame and I have the Windows dialog. And if I consider panel, I'm going to have the applet. Now, dear student, I'm going to have the container as well as component. So, what is container? See, all the elements like text box, label, text field, buttons, scroll bar, etc. are called components. In Java AWT, there are classes for each component. In order to place every component in a particular position on the screen, we need to add them to the container. So what I want to do, see, I have the component, but I want to control all the components. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to place all the components inside the container, or I'm going to group all the components inside the container. So the container is a component in AWT that can contain another components like button, text field, labels, etc. So here the class that extends container class are known as container, such as frame or dialog or panel. Now see here, I have the AWT container and component. So what are the components here? I have label, text field, button 1, button 2 and button 3. So all these are my component. Then what about container? See here, this frame itself nothing but the container. So this frame itself nothing but the container. Then what about panel? That's nothing but the partition. See here, I have partition 1 and I have partition 2. Okay, so within the container, I'm going to have the component. So I'm going to use the container. Inside that, I'm going to use the component. What are the components? Label, text field and button. Anyway, dear student, in my today's session, I started with what is AWT and what is event and how we can able to handle the events. Anyway, dear student, in my next session, I'm going to deal with Java applet. In that, I'm going to deal with applet life cycle and I'm going to deal with applet tag. Anyway, dear student, let's meet in the next session with the new chapter, that is applet. Until that, keep watching and keep learning. Thank you.